Wars were fought over it. Empires built on it. Yet today, you sprinkle it away without a thought. This is the story of salt, once worth more than gold. It preserved food, fed armies, and funded kingdoms. From desert caravans to ocean coasts, we trace its power. How did a simple white mineral come to rule the ancient world? Salt is essential. The human body cannot live without it. Early humans got it from meat, but farming changed everything. A grain diet left people craving what meat once gave them. So the hunt for salt became a driving force of civilization. The oldest salt works date back over 8,000 years. In ancient China, salt was taxed as early as 2000 BC. Those taxes helped build the Great Wall itself. The Chinese drilled deep wells to reach brine underground. Bamboo pipes carried the brine to boiling pans. Natural gas flames boiled the water, leaving pure salt. In Egypt, salt preserved bodies for the afterlife. Natron salt was the secret behind mummification. The Egyptians also traded salted fish across the Nile. Rome built roads to move salt across its empire. The Via Salaria, the Salt Road, led to the sea. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt rations for their service. From this practice came the Latin word for salary, salarium. In Africa, salt slabs were carried across the vast Sahara Desert. The city of Timbuktu grew rich as a hub of the salt trade. In some markets, salt was traded ounce for ounce with pure gold. The salt mines of Taghaza were carved entirely from solid salt. Enslaved workers cut the blocks in brutal, sun-scorched conditions. In Europe, salt shaped the fortunes of medieval cities. The Austrian town of Hallstatt owes its name to ancient salt. Miners there dug tunnels 3,000 years before Rome rose. In Venice, salt built a maritime empire that ruled Mediterranean trade. Venice controlled salt prices and forced ships to carry its precious cargo. The city taxed every grain, filling its treasury with immense wealth. In France, a hated salt tax was called the Gabelle. Every person was forced to buy salt at fixed royal prices. Smugglers risked prison to sell cheaper salt across borders. The Gabelle helped spark anger that fueled the French Revolution. Along Europe's coasts, sea salt was harvested from shallow ponds. The sun and wind slowly dried seawater into gleaming white crystals. Workers raked and piled the salt into shining pyramids by the shore. In India, salt from the sea became a symbol of freedom and resistance. The British ruled India partly by controlling its precious salt supply. A harsh law made it illegal for Indians to collect their own salt. In 1930, Gandhi led a great march to the sea in defiance. He walked hundreds of miles to lift a single handful of salt. That simple act shook an empire and inspired millions to rise. Across the ocean, America built its own fortunes on salt. The town of Syracuse in New York was nicknamed the Salt City. Its brine springs supplied salt across a rapidly growing young nation. During the Civil War, salt became a weapon of survival and strategy. Confederate armies depended on salt to preserve meat for hungry soldiers on the march. Union forces deliberately targeted Southern salt works to cripple the enemy's food supply. The town of Saltville in Virginia became a fierce battleground over its vital reserves. China had taxed and traded salt thousands of years before the Western world. Chinese engineers drilled deep brine wells using bamboo pipes and clever tools. Natural gas from these wells was burned to boil brine into pure salt. The salt monopoly funded emperors and their armies for countless dynasties. In Poland, the Wieliczka mine grew into a vast underground kingdom of salt. Miners carved chapels, statues, and chandeliers entirely from glistening rock salt. Beneath the earth, they built a shimmering cathedral that still stuns visitors today. In Africa, caravans crossed the vast Sahara, carrying slabs of salt like treasure. The desert city of Timbuktu grew rich trading salt for gold and knowledge. At the remote Taghaza mines, workers cut salt blocks straight from the desert floor. In some markets, salt slabs were used as money, traded piece by precious piece. In Ethiopia, miners still hack salt from the scorching Danakil Depression. Caravans of camels haul these blocks across one of Earth's hottest places. In the Andes, families still harvest salt from ancient terraced mountain pools. These Incan salt pans have been worked by hand for over 500 years. In Bolivia lies Salar de Uyuni, the largest salt flat on the entire planet. Beneath its blinding crust hides lithium, the new white gold of our age. In ancient Rome, roads were built to move salt from the coast to the city. The famous Via Salaria, the Salt Road, carried this treasure into the empire. Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt, a payment they called the salarium. From that single word grew our modern term, the salary we earn today. In Venice, merchants built a glittering empire on the trade of white gold. The city controlled salt across the Mediterranean, filling its coffers with wealth. In France, a hated salt tax known as the Gabelle burdened the common people. Smugglers risked prison and death to sell cheaper salt in secret. The Gabelle grew so cruel it helped spark the fires of revolution. Across the world, salt shaped rebellion, wealth, and the fall of kings. In India, Britain seized control of salt and forbade the people from making their own. The salt tax crushed the poor, who could not afford this basic necessity of life. In 1930, Gandhi led a great march to the sea to defy the British salt law. For weeks he walked, gathering thousands who marched beside him toward the ocean. At the shore, he bent down and lifted a handful of salt from the sand. That single grain of defiance shook the foundations of an empire. Across India, millions began making salt, and prisons overflowed with the arrested. A simple mineral had become a symbol of freedom and quiet resistance. Today, salt is cheap, mined and produced in staggering amounts worldwide. Machines now harvest in hours what once took caravans months to carry. Long before revolution, salt quietly fed the anger of an entire nation. In France, the Gabelle forced every person to buy salt at fixed royal prices. Families were even required to purchase a set amount each year, whether they needed it or not. The rich escaped the tax, while the poor bore its crushing weight. Resentment simmered for generations, hardening into deep hatred of the crown. When France erupted in 1789, the Gabelle stood among the people's fiercest grievances. Revolutionaries demanded the hated salt tax be abolished forever. As the monarchy fell, the Gabelle was swept away with the king's crown. The French Revolution, born of many wrongs, was quietly ignited in part by salt. From this humble mineral rose empires, salaries, and the fall of kings themselves.